Johnny Silverhand released Clone Wars, with music focusing upon Biotechnica to expose the use of bioengineered humans created for military and industrial purposes. The quest for functional, intelligent human clones has consumed many corporations in Cyberpunk 2077. In the USA, there was no legislation nationally or locally to cover what rights and privileges a wholly artificial clone might have. Many people saw this as a loophole for the creation of functional human beings with no rights, liberties, or freedom. Possibilities are endless and sinister. Picture genetically engineered clones as modern slaves, laboring at jobs too dangerous or awful for natural humans, but too tricky or delicate for machines. Perhaps armies of identical soldiers born and bred only for war, stripped of emotion and conscience in the labs in which they were created. Black operations operatives, spies and assassins made to order, traceable to no one. Imagine illegal duplicates of living people made from genetic or biological material pirated from others. These beings would be without serial identification numbers, without pasts or families. If the process was refined, they could be created and disposed of as necessary, cheaply and efficiently. In contrast, opponents to this position postulate that clones could be a tremendous force for progress. Clones of long-dead geniuses brought about by the salvaging of genetic material from corpses and biological samples. Bodies and brains could simply be kept in storage, ready to be mated with copies of the template intellect copied into AI storage. Assassination would become redundant. What about the ethical considerations of the potential scientific progress that could be made if clones of the best and brightest that humanity has to offer could undertake missions too harsh for those with families, such as space travel? During the Fourth Corporate War, these arguments were to some extent still moot. As always, there is one outlier who manages to break the rules, and that distinction would belong to Dr. Frances Holliday Young. In 2004, the first human clone tissue was grown in vitro at Johns Hopkins University by a PhD candidate, Frances Young. They were essentially cell cultures, tiny formless blobs of barely differentiated tissue that lived in test tubes for only a few hours before dissolving into necrosis. In 2009, Frances quietly left academia for a position with Biotechnica, who promised him unlimited funding, resources, and full credit for his achievements in return for patent rights on anything he creates. In 2014, Nippon Semeikoge Associates created human clones with neural development and activity. Shortly afterwards, the scientists completed a cloned body with a full-sized brain, but it lacked intellect. The body was amorphous and resided within a vat. Shortly afterwards, Nippon Semeikoge's clone division were wiped out in a black operation by an unknown party. By 2017, Frances Young had successfully grown 3 full-sized human bodies. The bodies were twisted and imperfect, and relied on drugs to stay alive, but they possessed complete operational brains. Young attempted to imprint intellects into the clones with a new AI braindance process, developed by microtech scientist Preem Cyberpunk. The process was partly successful. The clones became self-aware, but their intellects were stunted by their imperfect brains. In 2018, Preem Cyberpunk left Microtech for Biotechnica. Microtech responded and a covert legal battle ensued. Cyberpunk was assassinated, presumably by Microtech agents, but his protege, Moira Kelly, stayed with Biotechnica Biotechnica. In an unrelated tragedy, Francis Young's 20-year-old daughter, Amelia, was killed in a traffic accident. The death of his daughter gave Francis new impetus, and by 2019, he had finally grown a perfect human body, cloned from samples taken from his daughter while she was still alive. The clone achieved full maturation within 10 months, and physically looked identical to Amelia. This Amelia clone was devoid of intellect, however, and her body languished in a vat, while work on the intellect implanting procedure continued with haste. A period of intensive work by 2020, Francis Young and Moira Kelly concluded with a groundbreaking experiment that implanted a construct personality into the cloned body, using a combination of cybernetic and organic technology to hold the implant in the blank brain. The clone became self-aware and was now named Edgerunner. Edgerunner was the first fully functional, self-aware, self-viable human clone in human history. Not only was she a wonder of biochemical engineering, but her brain is an unprecedented revolutionary fusion of organic tissue and biochipping. Contained in her unusual brain are the prodigious intellect and aptitude for learning, as well as the complete documentation on her own creation. Edgerunner's fate remains unknown, which has potentially interesting implications for Cyberpunk 2077.